Hi there and welcome to Transcona Trailer Sales. Today I'm going to be walking you through your 2025 Intech Sol Dusk. We are just going to start off at the back of the unit. If you notice right here, you are pre-wired and pre-mounted for a mobile vision observation camera. If you'd like to get set up with that, you can contact your parts department. Other than that, you got your license plate, which is going to go right in the back here. And then you do have a little receiver out here in the back. Just keep in mind, your receiver, it's a max capacity of 175 pounds, so really it is just for a bike rack, so be very, very mindful of that. Coming around the left side of the unit, you got your stabilizer jack, just hooks up with a 3/4 inch drive tool. We do have the manual tool located inside the other side compartment. I'm going to show you that once we get there. Hook that tool up to this drive nut, run this foot down to the ground. Once the foot contacts the ground, just giving another 1/8 turn to snug it up, and it's going to take any bounce or sway you see we have in the unit right now away. With that being said, we do have impact tools that you can run. They do sell impact tools. It's a very common thing. They're cordless now. Whenever you're using one, just be very mindful of how much torque you're putting on them, because they are stabilizing jacks and not leveling jacks. You don't want to bend any of those. Opening up this guy here, this is just a service port for your hot water heater. Main things you're going to want to worry about here is that on switch, which supplies power to the thermostat inside, which I'll go over once we get there. And then of course you got your pressure relief valve. So essentially, this is not going to be like your standard water heater. Typically with a standard water heater, there's bypass valves at the back. This one shouldn't have any, and if it were to have any, don't touch them. You want to run antifreeze through the system, and once you're done winterizing the unit completely, just leaving this pressure relief valve cracked. That's just allowing for any fluid to drain out once it gels up when it gets really cold in the winter. You got your 30 amp supply cord. You're just taking note of that notch there. It lines up with this notch on this side. Clicking that, pushing that into place, 8 turn to lock it in, and you got that threaded collar to really lock that down. If you follow that cord back, you do have your standard 30 amp plug-in. Most campsites should have this, and you can plug right on in. But let's say you have the unit at home on your driveway, or your campsite only has 15 amp service. We do include that 15 amp park adapter. It's just keep it in mind, you're going down to 15 amps of power, so you can't run your air conditioner. It really is just to run your fridge and your lights, charge up your batteries. You're gonna notice that dribble coming out there down the bottom. That is just your fresh tank drain. The fresh tank and low point drains are located inside, so we'll go over those once we get there, but that's where it's gonna drain out. Got your coax plug-in. Then you do have your little utility center, so you got your city water connection. So if you're at a site with service, just thread a garden hose in there, turn it on, and it will pressurize all those lines without the need to run your water pump. And then you got your fresh tank fill, so that's what your water pump draws off of. Pretty simple, just put a garden hose in there, turn it on. Should pressurize all those lines. Furnace exhaust, whenever that's running, it is blowing out hot air, so be mindful of that. You got a little portable solar panel plug-in, so if you were to buy one, of course you would have to come ready to hook up. You can plug in it on here, and there's leads that go to your battery that can charge that. Next, you got your little tube for your sewer hose. We have a brand new one located inside the compartment, so that's why it's not in there yet. But typically after your first use, that's where you would want to put it. Just helps keep all the smell out of the unit. And now this unit here does have one big tank, combined your gray water, your black water, all into one. So this is the only thing you'd have to worry about. You're just taking that cap, twisting it, pops out of place. These are the same ears your sewer hose are gonna have. Lock it in like so. Once those are lined up, just giving it a twist and it'll lock into place. Valve opening it obviously drains all the fluid out, making sure that you do have it connected. Around the front of the unit, you got your tongue jack with a light on it, up and down. Manual override right at the top, you're just having to pull that rubber cap off. And then behind this, of course being careful because it is painted black, so it can scratch pretty easily if you're not careful. Pull these 2 cotter pins off. Will allow you to pull that panel out of the way. I like to place it like this with the face up. Whenever I'm in here, you got your 2 20-pound propane tanks, selector valve right on the top of, right on the front of the regulator. Obviously with it pointed to this way, you're gonna be drawing off this tank. If this tank were to go dry, clockwise, tighten it up all the way, closing it. Then you could draw off that tank while you're getting this one filled. You just have to loosen off this at the top. It will allow those to pop off. Counterclockwise to turn on the flow of propane, always trying to open up that valve slowly and opening it up all the way. Leaves it open. Obviously, to get it back into place, it's just the opposite of how you got it off. Now around the passenger side, you got your main entryway door, which I'll go over in a minute once we get there. And then you got your 2 rear compartments. This one is a little rear kitchenette. Opening up that guy, you do have to pull this yellow tab and allow this to slide out, and it will lock into place. You got your griddle, works pretty simple. If you follow it back, it's kind of pre-plumbed. You got a hose right here at the back. Unclipping it from there, you can run that down. Then you got your propane quick connect. Pulling that dust cap off, you're gonna notice with this valve closed, it's gonna allow you to operate that coupler. Like any standard airline, you put that in there, pull the collar back, push it in, and lock it into place. Now all you'd have to do is open up that flow of propane, and you'd have full propane running to your griddle, and it would be ready to fire up. As an added safety feature, it's not going to allow you to operate that coupler whenever the flow is open, so you would have to close the flow to disconnect it, and then you can just run your tube back up and snap it back into place. Then you do have a little Dometic outside cooler, super cool. You could do anything from freeze to just keeping it cold. Lots of different settings you can go into. You can open it up either way, or you can just take it right off. And it does have a battery pack built in. So if it's fully charged, which typically it is because it's always plugged in, so whenever you're plugged into shore power, this is going to be charging. You can disconnect it from that wall, and you can take it right out and take it off to the beach with you if you wanted to go there, because it does have a built-in battery pack. I'm not totally sure about the runtime for the battery. That's something you might have to look into a little yourself. And then inside this compartment here, you're going to see this big thing, this big canvas. Very important that you always use this whenever you are traveling. It just goes over top of this front window. The rubber piece slides into this track, and then you got your snap buttons that go all the way around. We will already have it installed for you once you come to pick up the unit, and if you'd like us to go over taking it off, you can do that once you get here. It's very important to use that because that front window is probably pretty expensive and not very nice to change. Also inside here, you got that 15-amp park adapter, which I've already told you about. You got your standard starter kit, which comes with that 10-foot sewer hose, 15-foot water hose, and then some other miscellaneous goodies. You also have that 3/4-inch drive tool for your stabilizer jacks. And then you do have a manual override for your awning in case that were to ever fail. And then right outside here, if you were to thread a garden hose on there, this is a little outside spigot. The valve at the back here, as soon as you turn it on, it is going to start flowing out fluid, so just be mindful of that, especially if you have the system pressurized. I do currently have this unit summarized, but I do have the whole system joined just in case we were to get to a little bit lower temperatures because it is early May still. To get the stairs down, you're just pulling that, making sure your doors are fully open, pulling on that tab and allow it to come towards you. You got these cotter pins on either side of the stairs, which you can pull out of place and adjust to have nice and level stairs for your campsite needs. Then, best part, taking a step on inside, first thing you notice off on your left is going to be that fire extinguisher. Pretty simple, pull the pin and shoot just like home. You got pretty much all your light switches right here on this panel. Turn them all on. Some of them are double switches, so you'll have another bedroom switch in the back bed, and they just piggyback off each other, and some more accent lighting throughout that you'll find throughout the unit. And then you do your awning control, pushing and holding that out button. The awning's going to start making its way out. Now, unfortunately, due to space, we won't be able to get it all the way out, but I will be able to get it out enough just to show you what's going on with it. Okay, so you will be able to go out more than this. Typically, you're going to know that's fully extended when you see these arms go to straight. Now, to get this to operate, you do have to pop these feet out of their little holder. By doing that like so, you pull this out, giving this a twist. And then you got your foot here. You can put this down to the ground, put a tent bag in it, set your height to where you want it, and then lock it with that holder. And it would lock it into place. And then to get it down, you'd obviously undo that, allow that to come down, folding it all the way in. Would allow you to twist it back into its spot, and then just making sure that you slide it right in there into place and lock it into place, so that way once you bring it in, it's not going to get caught in anything. Bringing it in just as simple as holding in that in button, and it would automatically suck itself in. Now, instead of taking a step into the kitchen, we'll just go over that first. Whenever you first get to your campsite, if you've had the propane system off for a while, it allows air into the system, so once you turn it back on, you do have to purge that air out. Whenever you do that, I do recommend just firing up your stove first thing. That way, it's the quickest, easiest way to purge all those air out of the lines. So you're just holding it on that light option, holding the igniter. I had the system running earlier, so that's why it did fire up so quickly today. Sometimes it can take a few minutes, and the reason I'm telling you to fire the stove quickly first is because it's not going to throw a fault code in case it doesn't light like the water heater would or your furnace. In your main bed area, all the blinds in the unit do work the same way. They just kind of sit where you leave them. One quick pull will allow them to retract back up. You got this nice seating area here. Underneath these cushions is where your battery is going to be located. You just have to pull these cushions out of the way, and there would be a battery box with some 10mm screws holding it in. On the wall, you do got your battery disconnect with it in the on position like it is now. The batteries are connected to the unit. If you return it to the off position, the batteries would become disconnected from the unit, and it also does disable the 12 volt, so be mindful of that. You got your main fuse and breaker panel, so whenever you have a breaker trip, it'll sit in the middle, so you do just have to turn it off and then back on again to reset it. You have all your fuses on your right. Microwave, which is pretty much just like home, not much I'll need to show you there. And then you got your monitor panel system and your water system technically. You got your battery level, so it's going to go 11.2, 11.7, and 12.3, which is fully charged. Then you got your fresh, your black. So it is hooked up to black because you don't have a gray. So the gray isn't hooked up to anything, and that would go with thirds, 2/3, and then full. And then you got tank heater as well as line heaters. That is for the extended camping season, but just keep it in mind, like our Manitoba winters are much too cold for these to be adequate. Realistically, if you are dipping below zero, you still run the risk of things freezing, so just be mindful of that. Then you do got your water pump switch that does draw out of the fresh tank. Your Suburban water heater thermostat, turning that on. It's going to tell you what the current output temp is, so that's just the temperature of the water that's currently sitting inside of it. If you were to turn on a hot tap, you'd have a little fan come on as well as a little shower head that's dripping water, and then a flame would come on to let you know that it lit, and it would go up to your desired temperature that you have set. Right off the bat, if you've had the batteries disconnected, it will be locked to 50 degrees just as an added safety feature so kids can't scald their hands. You just have to hold the up button for 5 seconds and it will unlock it and allow you to go to 55 if that's what your desired temperature would be. Stereo system, pretty much just like home, minus the fact of having zone A and zone B. Zone A will be your interior speakers, zone B will be your exterior speakers. And then of course you got your little fridge. It does have a tiny little freezer in it in case you want to make ice cubes or something, and then all the controls for which are right up here. Obviously with 7 being the coldest setting and anywhere before that being a warmer setting. Right down below, this is your main furnace output. So this is where all your furnace is going to put out all its warm air. So if you wanted to get a little fan to blow things around, it might be a good idea. Whenever you're running your air conditioner, you can decide what you're doing with that air by adjusting your louvers on either side, depending on what your situation is. And then of course, if you're noticing air is not blowing out that nice, just check these filters inside here periodically and just blow them out with compressed air. They can get dusty. It's the intake vents. You just have to pull on the tabs on either side and those would just pop right out of place. Kitchen area, we've kind of already gone over that. Lots of storage, just being careful of water lines and everything around. Then you do got your bathroom. Opening that up. We got a 2-in-1 nice little system here. You got your toilet, flusher on the right. Shower head, hot and cold water. Above your head, you do got a little vent lid. Opening that guy up all the way. Fan switch is on the left. you're going to notice you're open up straight into the atmosphere. So if it were to start raining, it is going to get wet inside here. And of course, if you were to leave that open while traveling, you do run the risk of damaging the lid, so be very mindful of that. Of course, which you went with a max air cover. It's just a cover that goes over top of that vent and would allow you to leave this open while traveling. As well, if it was raining, you could also leave it open because it's not going to get wet inside there. If you'd like to get set up with that, again, you can contact the parts department and they'll put together a quote for you. Now, in your main bedroom space, pretty standard, nice storage all around. You do get bed space on either side. I'm going to mention now, if you slide this out of the way, set it off to the side, set this off to the side, you're going to notice this little trap door. Opening this up, I'm going to mention right off the bat, when it comes to Intechs, they have everything laid out extremely nicely, very accessible. These are both low point drains, so if you were to crack these guys open, it just tries to drain as much water out of the water lines as possible, so that helps if you don't want water going stale or stagnant. Or again, once you're done winterizing, cracking that pressure relief valve for the water heater, I would leave these cracked too, because it's not going to hurt it. You got your bypass hose tube. So now when it does come to an Intech, you got two valves. This valve, which is opening up the flow so you can suck out of your pail of antifreeze. This is your fresh tank drain, so you have to have this open whenever you're draining the tank and closed whenever you're winterizing or in operation. And this valve here is going to be for winterization. All it's doing is cutting off the fresh water from your water pump if you were to be winterizing. Just keep it in mind whenever you go into summer mode, you do have to open it up so you can open up the water flow to the rest of the unit. Slide that back into place. Now last but not least, right up here in the wall, you got your max air cover, your max air control little section here. Pushing the on button automatically does open up the vent lid and turn on the fan. And then pushing the power button, you're just going to be on your slowest setting at first, and then you got 3 more settings after that, which are high settings. Hitting the fan button off turns off the fan and lowers the vent lid automatically. You can open and lower the vent lid manually by pressing the buttons to coordinate with that. And then you got your thermostat. Pushing the power button once will bring you into your mode option. So at this point, you can scroll between your different modes. So you got cool, heat, which turns on the furnace. And then you got cool plus heat. So now that's going to decide, based on what you have the room temperature to, what it's going to turn on. It'll either turn on the furnace if it decides that it needs to be warmer, which we currently have the room set to 21 and it's 20, so that's what it's doing. If it were to be 22, it would turn on the air conditioner because it needs to cool off. Pushing the button again, you get to cool dry. That's just a dehumidifying mode. It's going to try and take as much humidity out of the air as possible with running that air conditioner. And then you can cycle over back to off. Now if you were to want to run the fan, you can do so. That's just moving air around with the air conditioner on either high or low. Whenever you're in cool, the fan speed, you're going to notice that auto option. Whenever you have it on auto, it's an on-demand system, so once the room reaches its temperature, it'll automatically kick on the fan. Kick off the fan, sorry. You can run the fan on high or low by itself, but the fan is going to run continuously until you turn it off. So I do recommend leaving it on auto, and that is it for that. If you have any other questions, feel free to give us a call.